It's amazing to see the worldwide push for clean energy, right? But sometimes it feels a bit, well, distant, like a big abstract idea.
I get what you mean. It's one thing to talk about global trends, but it's something else entirely to see those changes happening on the ground in real places.
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting about what's happening in Benin. They're going all in on renewable energy, specifically solar power. And it's not just talk, they're building some pretty impressive
Oh,
projects.
absolutely. And for today's deep dive, that's exactly where we're headed. Benin and their ambitious energy transformation. We've got some great sources lined up giving us a close-up look at the Ililfin Solar Power Station, along with efforts to bring electricity to rural communities.
It's inspiring stuff, really showing how Benin is taking charge of their energy future in a way that's both sustainable and, well, just plain cool. So we're talking cutting edge technology, but also the human side of things, the impact this is having on people's lives.
Exactly. We're going to break down the key developments, the goals they'd set, and what this all means for Benin's future. It's like a crash course in renewable energy, Benin style.
Perfect. So let's get into it, shall we? The Ilulafin Solar Power Station is a name that keeps popping up. First off, where exactly is this thing located?
The Ilulafin Solar Power Station is in Pobe, which is in the Plateau Department of Benin. They're developing it in two phases, and the first one, believe it or not, is already up and running. It was officially launched back in July 2022.
July 2022. So they're already generating power from this thing. What's the capacity of this first phase? Just to give us an idea of how much energy we're talking about.
This first phase is generating a solid 25 megawatts of power. And get this, to do that, they installed a massive array of 47,212 crystalline photovoltaic panels. Yeah, you heard that right, 47,000 panels.
Wow, that's a lot of panels. I'm trying to picture that. Like, how much space does a solar farm that big actually take up?
It's pretty expansive. We're talking about 96 hectares. To put that into perspective, think of it as covering an area larger than 170 football fields. It's a seriously impressive site.
Okay, that really helps me visualize it. That's a lot of land dedicated to harnessing the power of the sun. So all that electricity being generated, it's got to get to the people, right? How is this olefin plant connected to the rest of Benin's power system?
They've got it hooked right into the national grid through a 2.5-kilometer, 20 kilovolt medium voltage transmission line. That's a pretty standard of voltage for distributing power within a region before it reaches individual homes or smaller substations.
Got it. And who are the main players behind this first phase of the olefin project?
The government of Benin took the lead on this one, with some major backing from the European Union and the French Development Agency. So it's a great example of international cooperation to make these clean energy goals a reality.
Makes sense. These large-scale projects usually need all hands on deck. Speaking of which, what was the approximate cost for this initial 25 megawatt phase?
The investment for this first phase was around US $72 million. Or if you prefer euros, it's about 60.5 million. So yeah, a serious financial commitment, which shows how serious Benin is about renewable energy.
Okay, so big investment, international support, and it's already up and running. But this is just the first step, right? There's a whole second phase planned for the Ilulafin solar power station. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. The plan is to add another 25 megawatts to the Ilulafin plant. That would bring the total capacity up to 50 megawatts,
Yeah.
effectively doubling its power output. They made this announcement back in December 2021.
Doubling the size, that's ambitious. Who's involved in making this expansion happen? Is it the same team as the first phase?
For this second phase, they're going with a public-private partnership model. Just this past August, they announced a collaboration between Toyota Tsusho of Japan, a huge player in global trade, and the Beninese Electricity Production Company, or SBPE. They're the ones responsible for electricity generation in Benin.
Interesting. So they're bringing in some heavyweight international expertise for this one. When do they expect the second phase to be operational?
If everything goes according to plan, they're aiming for a 2025 completion date.
2025, that's not too far off. So in a few years, Benin could be generating twice as much solar power from this one site. That's impressive. Now, while these big projects are great, access to electricity isn't equal everywhere in Benin, is it?
You're right, we've been talking about this impressive solar plant, but there's a whole other side to Benin's energy story. And that's the challenge of bringing electricity to everyone, especially in rural areas.
Right, the urban-rural divide is a real issue in many countries. What does the electricity access situation look like in Benin right now?
It's a stark contrast. Back in 2020, about 56% of people in urban areas had access to electricity. That's more than half, which isn't bad. But in rural areas, that number plummets to just 11%. That's a huge difference.
Wow, that's a big gap. What's the government doing to address this imbalance?
They've been actively working on it. They've got various rural electrification programs in place aiming to bring power to more people. In fact, one of their goals was to increase rural access to 36% by 2015.
2015, that's a while back. Do we know if they hit that target? And what's been happening since then?
That specific data is a bit tricky to find, but what's clear is that rural electrification is still a top priority. And look, these large-scale projects often come with their share of challenges, right? Things like logistics in remote areas, funding, and getting local communities involved. It's not a simple fix. But the fact that these programs are still running means they're committed to bringing power to rural Benin, even if things don't always go perfectly on schedule.
Makes sense. And it's not just the government tackling this, right? International organizations play a big role too, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. International groups are key partners in this effort. They bring much-needed money, technical know-how, and fresh ideas from other parts of the world facing similar challenges. They're a crucial part of the equation.
Earlier, we mentioned the Solar Electric Light Fund, or SELF. What kind of work have they been doing in Benin? Can you give us an example?
Self has been doing some really cool stuff, focusing on using solar power for community development. One of their projects involves setting up solar-powered drip irrigation systems. And it's not just about the technology, it's about how it impacts people's lives.
Right, it's about using clean energy to solve real problems. Tell me more about these irrigation systems.
These systems are making a huge difference for farmers in rural areas. They provide a reliable and clean source of water, which obviously helps crops grow better. That means more food for families and more income for farmers. It's a win-win.
So it's not just about lighting up homes, it's about empowering entire communities. That's fantastic. Now let's talk about the business side of things. With all these developments, it seems like Benin's renewable energy sector could be pretty attractive to foreign investors, right? What kinds of opportunities are we talking about?
You're hitting on a key point. Benin's commitment to renewable energy, combined with the need for more electricity access, makes it a prime spot for investors. There's a lot of potential here.
But let's break that down. We've got all these rural communities without access to the grid. What kind of opportunities are there specifically for those areas?
Off-grid solar solutions are where it's at in rural Benin. There's a huge market for technologies that can bring power to individual homes and villages.
Give us some examples. What kind of off-grid investments are we talking about?
Solar home systems are a big one. These are basically self-contained units that provide basic electricity for lighting, charging phones, and running small appliances. They're perfect for areas where connecting to the main grid is just too difficult or expensive. Then you've got mini-grids. These are like small-scale power networks that can serve a group of homes or a whole village using solar panels. And then there are portable solar devices like lanterns and chargers, which are super handy for people on the move or in really remote spots.
So it's a mix of solutions, each tailored to different needs. Makes sense. Now, what about larger scale projects beyond these off-grid solutions?
That's where things like the Olulafin Solar Power Station come in. As Benin scales up its renewable energy capacity, they'll need more big solar farms, maybe even wind farms down the line.
Right.
Plus, they need to upgrade their transmission lines to get all that clean energy to where it's needed.
Right, the infrastructure has to keep up with the growing energy production. How can foreign investors get involved in these larger projects?
Public-private partnerships, like the one for the second phase of Olulafin, are a great way to go. These partnerships allow international companies to bring their money, expertise, and experience to the table, working alongside the government to get these big projects done right.
So it's about combining resources and knowledge. What's another area that investors should be looking at in Benin?
One word: training. As the renewable energy sector grows, Benin will need a skilled workforce to keep everything running smoothly. That means training people to install, maintain, and operate all these new technologies.
That makes sense. It's not enough to just build the infrastructure. You need people who know how to work with it.
Exactly. Investing in training centers, educational programs, and on-the-job training is crucial. It's about creating a sustainable workforce that can support Benin's energy future for years to come. And it's about creating jobs and opportunities for the people of Benin, which is a win for everyone.
It's about investing in people as much as it is about investing in technology. What about financing? Are there any creative ways to make these renewable energy solutions more accessible, especially for lower-income folks?
Absolutely. We're seeing innovative financing models popping up, which are making a big difference. Things like pay-as-you-go systems, where people pay for their electricity in small installments, are removing the barrier of high upfront costs.
Hmm.
And microfinancing programs are giving people access to small loans so they can afford to invest in things like solar home systems. These are game changers, really.
It's about making clean energy affordable and accessible for everyone, not just the wealthy.
Exactly. These innovative financing options are opening up a whole new market, making renewable energy a reality for more people.
So, to wrap this all up, Benin is really becoming a leader in the renewable energy space. They're not just talking about it, they're building it. From massive solar farms to solutions that empower rural communities. And it's creating a ton of opportunities for investors who want to be a part of this clean energy revolution.
It's a fascinating example of how a country can take charge of its energy future, and it's exciting to see what they accomplish in the years to come.
It really makes you think about the bigger picture, right? As more and more countries shift to renewable energy, how do we make sure it benefits everyone? It's about making sure these transitions are good for the environment, good for the economy, and good for the people.
And to you listening, what do you think are the most important things to keep in mind as we navigate this global shift towards cleaner energy? What needs to happen to ensure that everyone benefits from this transition, not just a select few? It's a question worth pondering.